Alright, I'm gonna say something a lot of people don't want to hear. Most ESO builds aren't actually bad. They're just not built for real PvP. They're built for duels or clips or perfect situations where everything will line up. From full resources, clean 1v1, no pressure, no chaos. But that's not what actually happens. Real PvP is messy. You're outnumbered, you're getting focused, your resources are getting drained, you're getting stunned, pressured, chased, and your build either holds up or it doesn't. And that's where most builds fail. So this isn't about giving you a build, it's about fixing the way you think about building. Because once you understand this, you don't need to copy anyone anymore. So, getting into the first mistake, and probably the biggest trap in ESO, overvaluing monster sets. People think a build isn't complete without a monster set. And yeah, some of them are very strong, but what nobody talks about is what you're actually giving up to run one. You're trading a full 5-piece set for a 2-piece proc. And in PvP, especially outnumbered fights, procs are unreliable. They don't always hit the right target, they don't always line up with your burst, sometimes they go off when you're playing defensive, sometimes they don't go off when you need pressure the most. And that inconsistency kills your build over time. Because real fights aren't decided in one moment, they're decided over 20, 30, and 60 seconds. Meanwhile, a second 5-piece set is giving you constant value. More stats, more sustain, more damage, and more survivability. Every second you're alive, it's doing something. No conditions, no timing, no RNG. And that's what you need when you're outnumbered. You need your build working for you at all times, not just when something procs. That's why a lot of stronger players drop monster sets entirely and just stack 2 strong 5-piece sets. That actually supports the playstyle. And if your build feels inconsistent or like it spikes and then falls off, that's usually the reason. Now, not saying monster sets are bad, they are good under certain conditions, but also just knowing whenever a second 5-piece would be better is also good to know as well. Now, let's talk about arena weapons, because this is where people get it wrong in both directions. A lot of players either think arena weapons are mandatory, or they think they're just PvE items and don't belong in PvP at all. The truth is, they're mostly designed for PvE. A lot of arena weapons are built around sustained damage rotations, predictable fights, and PvE style uptime. And yeah, a lot of them don't translate well into PvP because, well, fights are way more chaotic than that. But here's the part people miss. Some arena weapons are insanely strong in PvP if they buff something you're already relying on. And that's the key. If an arena weapon is enhancing a core ability in your kit, something you're using consistently, it becomes consistent power. Not a proc, not a maybe, just straight value every time you press that skill. And that's where they become dangerous in PvP. Now, I'm not saying you need one in every build. If your setup already has strong synergy and pressure, forcing an arena weapon can actually make your build worse. But if your build feels like it's missing consistency or your back bar feels weak, that's where arena weapons can actually carry you. Especially on the back bar. Because that's where you survive. That's where you heal, manage resources, and stabilize under pressure. And small boosts that don't feel crazy at first, but over a 30-second fight, over a minute-long fight, they add up massively. So, let's talk about armor weights. If you're playing real PvP, especially outnumbered, you need heavy armor. 2 to 3 heavy pieces is the baseline, and I know some people don't want to hear that because light and medium feel better when you're not being pressured. You hit harder, you move faster, it feels smoother. But that's not reality. Reality is, you are going to get focused. Multiple people are going to hit you at the same time. You're going to get stunned, bursted, chased, forced defensive. And if your build doesn't have enough mitigation, well, you don't get to play, you just die. And this is where most players misunderstand what's happening. They think, when they die, that they need more damage, and they don't. They need more time. Heavy armor will give you that time. Time to react, time to heal, time to reposition, and time to outplay. And in PvP, time is the most valuable resource you have. Now let's go deeper. Every fight in PvP has phases. Engage, pressure, counter pressure, reset, re-engage. Bad builds only function in one phase. Good builds function in all of them. If your build only feels strong when you're attacking, but falls apart when you're pressured, you're going to lose most fights. You need to be able to transition between offense and defense instantly, and almost always. That's what real PvP demands. And here's another one. This is something I've already covered in a previous video, but I feel like it's worth mentioning again. line of sight. This is something builds need to support. You are not supposed to face tank everything. You are supposed to break pressure, corners, terrains, and structures. Your build should give you the sustained survivability to reach safety, not stand still and try to outheal damage in the open. If your build only works in perfect positioning, it's not built for real PvP. Now, let's talk about tempo. Tempo is the control. If you're applying pressure, you control the fight. If you're reacting, you're losing control. A strong build lets you take tempo and keep it. Constant pressure, consistent damage, reliable sustain, that forces your opponent into mistakes. And then let's get into uptime, because almost nobody understands this. A lot of builds rely on burst windows, procs, or short buffs, and yeah, those can be strong, but fights are not decided in those moments. They're decided over time. If your damage disappears outside of a window, your opponent resets, heals, recovers, and repositions. Good builds apply pressure constantly, not just when everything lines up, but throughout the entire fight. Consistency beats spikes. Now we go even deeper though. Resource pressure. This is where fights are really won. Not just your sustain, but your opponent's. If your build forces them to block, dodge, heal constantly, you are draining them. And once their resources are low, they die. That's real PvP, not one-shot combos, resource control. Also want to add too as well, if you're keeping enough pressure on somebody that they are constantly having to block, roll dodge, etc, etc, this is where bash weaving actually comes into play as a very resourceful tool. Basically it's light attack, ability, block, bash. That's simple. But what that does is it forces your opponent to hold up on the block, which secures your kill whenever you actually land a good CC. Another huge mistake is no understanding of trade-offs. Players try to build something that does everything: damage, survivability, sustain, and mobility. It sounds good, but it doesn't work. Strong builds are focused. You pick a strength and you lean into it. If you try to do everything, you become average at everything, and average builds lose. So, let's talk about target selection. You really shouldn't just hit whoever is in front of you. You should be looking for weakness, from low health, low resources, bad positioning. Your build needs enough pressure to punish that instantly, and if it doesn't, you're missing kills constantly. Now let's talk about burst. Burst doesn't win fights by itself, it finishes fights. Your pressure creates the opportunity, your burst ends it. If you rely only on burst, you're predictable and good players will survive you. Okay? It's important for everybody to understand. If you rely only on burst, you're predictable and good players will survive you. Now, let's talk about recovery. This is something almost nobody builds for. What happens when everything goes wrong? No stamina, no magicka, low health. Can your build recover? Or is it over? Because real PvP is not about perfect situation, it's about surviving bad ones. And finally, playstyle alignment. Your build needs to match how you play. If you're aggressive, you need survivability to stay in fights. If you're defensive, you need pressure to actually secure kills. If those don't match, your build will always feel off. That's why copying builds doesn't work, because you're copying someone else's playstyle without realizing it. So, if your build feels good in theory but falls apart in real fights, look at this. Are you relying on inconsistent procs? Are your sets giving constant value? Does your build function under pressure? Can you control tempo? Can you recover from bad situation? Does your build match your playstyle? At the end of the day, a real ESO build isn't about what looks good in your menu, it's about what works when the fight is against you, when you're outnumbered, when you're under pressure, when nothing is going your way. If your build can handle that, then you're not just copying builds anymore, you actually understand the game. And that's what separates average players from good ones. If you want more breakdowns like this, real PvP knowledge, not copy-paste builds, stick around. Because this goes way deeper than people think, and I plan on making more videos about this. Also, want to add, go cop the $2.99 membership because your boy wants some pizza, and yeah, I love pizza, and yeah, go buy your boy some pizza. Anyways, if you like this video, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and stay tuned for more because there will be more videos about this.